Jennifer Makau, now tensions are rising between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Kenya through President of the DRC, Felix Tshisekedi, sharply criticizing Kenya's President William Ruto for how he managed the Nairobi process. This process was meant to help resolve the conflict in the eastern DRC. But Tshisekedi stated that Ruto's actions have made things even worse. Launched by former Kenyan president, that is Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, the Nairobi process has seen little progress since late 2023, with Tshisekedi claiming Ruto's support for Rwanda has stalled the process and worsened tensions between the two countries. Irene Juguna with the full report.
DRC President Felix Tshisekedi has criticized Kenyan President William Ruto for failing to properly manage the Nairobi process. Tshisekedi says Ruto has taken sides with Rwanda, which he believes has blocked progress in the peace efforts to address the ongoing violence in eastern DRC through dialogue. But since the third round of talks in December 2023, the process has stalled and tensions between the DRC and Kenya have increased. With diplomatic relations strained, the future of the Nairobi process and regional stability is uncertain. Irene Juguna, GBS News.
A Nigerian court has convicted 125 Boko Haram militants and financiers on terrorism-related charges in a historic mass trial. The two-day proceedings, held at the armed detention facility in Kanji, Niger State, marked a pivotal step in Nigeria's ongoing battle against the insurgency that has devastated the northeast of the country. The convictions, which include charges of terrorism, financing ICC-related crimes, and direct terrorism offenses, come as part of a broader effort to address the humanitarian crisis and the violent conflict that has plagued Nigeria since 2009. Tomax Musyoki reports.
The convicts face charges including terrorism financing, rendering material support, and crimes related to the International Criminal Court. The Attorney General's office emphasized the severity of the charges, underscoring the significant threat posed by the convicted individuals. Of the 125 convicted, 85 were found guilty of terrorism financing, 22 were convicted of ICC-related crimes, and the remainder were convicted of various terrorism charges. The court has sentenced them to various prison terms, though specific details on the length of sentences have not been disclosed. One of the most notorious incidents associated with Boko Haram was the 2014 kidnapping of over 2,070 girls from a school in Chibok. The abductions drew global condemnation and sparked the Bring Back Our Girls campaign, championed by former U.S. First Lady Michelle Obama. While more than 108 of the kidnapped girls have been freed or escaped, many remain missing, and those who have returned face severe challenges reintegrating into their communities. Thomas Musyoki, GBS News.
Now let us turn our attention to Africa. A wave of protest is spreading through the continent. It began in Kenya with the protest against the budget, or the finance bill, as they called it. And they spread across the border to the neighboring Uganda. And now Nigeria is gearing up to become the third protest hotspot. Young Nigerians are preparing to march against the government. They plan to hold peaceful protests, that is next week, 1st of August. And this has scared the Nigerian establishment. The country's President Bola Tinubu issued a warning on Monday. He said the protests were the work of some sinister people and asked the Nigerians not to join in. The next day, Nigerian Chief Police joined in the chorus. He said the protests were ill-advised and the police would not sit back and watch. 2 days later, the Nigerian military chimed in. A military spokesperson said the protest may lead to an anarchy. He stated the army would not allow to see the Nigerian spiral out of control. So you can see how the rattled in the authorities are. Every arm of the government is trying to stop the protest, and not just with threats. On Tuesday, Nigeria doubled its minimum wage to try to diffuse the public angers. Listen to this.
Only today, the National Assembly has expeditiously passed the new national minimum wage. You can see how the president is working. It was transmitted only yesterday. Today it has been passed. A lot of other interventions that the president has also put in place are also going to be looked at expeditiously in the interest of Nigeria. So there's no need for strike. The young people out there should listen to the president and allow the president more time to see to the realization of all the goodies he has for them.
There, because they are the ones who are organizing the protests. Just like the Kenya and the Ugandans across Africa, it is the young people, members of the Gen Z, who are organizing the demonstrations. Gen Z is planning protests using social media. Nigerians Gen Z are also mobilizing under social hashtag End Bad Governance, the Gen Zs. The protesters in Kenya were also organized under hashtag. It was Tag Reject Finance Bill 2024. That was then, and they called it the budget. And this is what, when the protest had started, now it has changed to hashtag Ruto must go. It reflects the changing demands of the Kenyan protesters. Protests also broke out in Uganda last Tuesday. They were organized using the hashtag March to the Parliament. So it is a similar story on all these three countries. Young people are fired up. They are also the tech surveys. So they use the social media to come together and challenge the entrenched power that be. The protests are being broadcast in the real-time social media on platforms like X and TikTok. So the world can see the live footages from the ground, footages of police brutality or military or the heavy headsmen whenever it occurs. So the Gen Z protesters share the footages which lead to a more public anger and therefore leading to more protests. It shows what a powerful tool social media can be and how it can put governments on the back foot. However, this is not the first time a thing like this has happened. Protests have been organized on social media before. They have inspired similar demonstrations in other countries and even brought governments to their knees. All of this happened in 2011 and 2012 in Africa itself and parts of West Asia. It was dubbed the Arab Spring. The protests organized in Tunisia and spread like wildfire across North Africa and West Asia. These protests were organized on Facebook or X or Twitter as it was called back then. Well, Gen Zs won't be caught dead using the Facebook anyway, but they are expressing their anger on TikTok and X. And this anger has already seen and spread across 3 African continents so far, African countries. More could follow, and the reaction in Nigeria proves one thing. An angry and local youth on every government is the worst nightmare any government could ever have. Listen in.
Anita must resign! Anita must resign! Anita must resign! Anita must resign! I want Anita Among to resign. She has stolen from this country. These resources are not hers. This is taxpayers' money. I am urging all the young people out there in Uganda to come out in large numbers and protest.
We are tired of corruption and it has to be resigned. We are tired. We are tired. No drugs in the hospitals. Bad roads. Kampala is the pothole capital. Bad roads. It's because of corruption.
We must resist external influence in the affairs of the African politics or African way of life. We must resist like they are doing in West Africa. We must resist IMF and World Bank and Britain and USA. These people are the people who are still ruling us behind the scenes. The colonialists went out through the front door, but they came back through the back door. It is politicians who have done this to hijack the people's revolution. The leaders must know that they will be held responsible for this. We are not afraid. We want our country back. We have been lied to for so long. For 60 years, we have been living in darkness. We have been living in ignorance. But now it's time for us to teach our people the truth.
Well, we'll keep you more updated as the news keeps coming in. And now moving on to the DRC in a major step towards addressing critical overcrowding in prisons. The Democratic Republic of Congo has initiated the release of inmates from the Makala Central Prison in Kinshasa. Justice Minister Constant Mutaba announced the conditional release of the first 421 prisoners on Saturday, with the plans to continue the process at the rate of 400 inmates per week. This effort aims to alleviate the severe congestion and the country's largest prison, which currently holds more than 15,000 people despite being designed to only hold 1,500 inmates. Here is a full report.
Makala Central Prison, the largest in the country, was originally designed to house 1,500 inmates when it was built in 1955. However, it currently holds more than 15,000 people, including women and children. The prison's conditions are calamitous, with overcrowded cells, inadequate food, and rampant health issues such as waterborne and respiratory diseases. Justice Minister Constant Mutamba announced that the release will continue at a rate of 400 inmates per week. The initiative aims to cut the prison's population by half. The government has also established a commission to review cases and determine eligibility for conditional release. In addition to the planned releases, Mutamba has ordered that sick prisoners and minors be released immediately and has prohibited the admission of new inmates. These measures are part of a broader effort to alleviate the harsh conditions and overcrowding across Congolese prisons. Thomas Musyoki, GBS News.
Former Nigerian President Mohamed Bazoum remains defiant despite being detained for nearly a year following the military coup on July 26, 2023, overthrown by General Abdurrahman Tishani and his presidential guard. Bazoum has been held at the presidential residence under the strict conditions, isolated from the outside world, except for the visit from his doctor. His wife Hadiza shared his confinement with him, and they are both denied phone access and communication with legal counsel. Bazoum's situation has drawn international condemnation, with the Economic Community of West Africa states, ECOWAS, persistently recently calling on their detentions as illogical while calling for his reinstatement. However, the military junta has ignored this ruling, asserting a transition period of up to 3 years before returning to civilian rule, further strengthening ties with Russia, marking a shift in the Nigerian diplomacy. But Bazoum resistance still continues amidst a tense political situation and the ongoing human rights concerns in the country. 11 months after seizing power in a coup, Gabon's transitional president Brice Oligui Nguema is facing mounting calls to run the upcoming presidential elections. As speculations about the candidacy intensifies, Deputy Prime Minister Alexandra Barrow has announced he will not stand for the office and will not support Oligui Nguema if he decides to seek election in August 2025. The move reflects the growing support and controversies of the transitional leader, who is yet to formally declare his intentions. Let's get the report.
Deputy Prime Minister Alexandre Barrow Champria recently made headlines by announcing he would not pursue the presidency. Instead, Champria, representing the Rally for the Homeland and Modernity Party, declared that he and his party would back Nguema if he chose to run in the presidential election slated for August 2025. Under Gabon's transitional charter, Nguema is authorized to stand as a candidate in the forthcoming elections. However, the charter restricts other transitional leaders from participating in the electoral race. Although Nguema has not yet made a formal declaration about his candidacy, his actions and the growing public sentiment suggest a strong possibility that he might seek to continue his tenure through the ballot box. As Gabon navigates this transitional period, the debate over the president's potential candidacy highlights the country's evolving political landscape and the significant shift following decades of the Bongo family's role. Thomas Musyoki, GBS News.
And that international news brings us to our very first break. We have more lined up for you shortly after the break. Topics you can't afford to miss. Stay tuned with us.
Today we're talking about importance of premarital counseling. Maybe to start with, help us to understand what is premarital counseling and why is it important?
Why a man should leave his parents. Kwa nini spiritually? Kwa nini mwanaume ataacha wazazi wake aende kwa mke wake? And then there's no true love in this world. We just say true love. Truth never change. Kitambo, I was a boxer. I worked in matatu sector. So you know what I mean, isn't it? So nilipitia. As a pastor anyway, he says danganya. Watu wananijua.
A truth never change.
Yeah.
A truth never change.
Yeah.
So if I tell you the truth, it will not change. Even if you'll ask me 5 years later, as long as I said the truth, I'll not forget because that is the truth.
Kuna msemo lakini ni uongo, yani wanasema ukiongea ukweli hautaishi na bibi. Action speaks
Louder than words.
True. Yeah. So what I say is not important. My actions are important. Nikamwambia mali jiwe na tupa si mali inaanguka. And she changed her mind. And then I come, oh, pastor.
You have newly wedded couples in the house. You are going to tell us about their journey.
So for me, mimi nilikuwa msumbufu since I was young. So my mom was tough on me. Kabisa.
So for me, I feel wazazi wangu wote walikuwa so tough, walikuwa so strict. Hakukuwa na the softer one, like walikuwa kimoja.
Ukiona akicheka anajua kwa nini.
Tell us, viewers wanangojea kusikia. Unajua story yako inaenda ku touch life ya mtu.
So after high school sasa unajua mimi nilikuwa nimeambiwa kuna ka college fulani mahali utaenda usome. But for me nilikuwa najua acha niende nitafute tu dem. Juu sana chama za shule.
Of course ingeenda CU, nilikuwa naenda enter. So hizo ndio vitu mbili zinilivutia sana kuja IYF.
Now mmekutana hivyo. Mlijua itakuja kuwa hivi ama what happened after that?
Personally nilikuwa nimeshachoka na story na dating na relationship. Nilikuwa nataka kukuwa anti mado.
Pesa. Hii video imeweza kutrend sana. Ningependa sana ichezwe. At least tuanzie from there.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back. You are still watching GBS Global and we are glad to have you join us today. Now moving on, at least 12 people, including children, were killed in an airstrike on football field on the Israel-occupied Golan Heights on Saturday, an attack that occurred in the Druze village of Majal Shams, where many young people were gathered. Israeli authorities have blamed Hezbollah for the strike, while the coup denied any involvement in any incident that marks the deadliest strike on Israel targets since the beginning of the Gaza conflict. In response, Israel has vowed to retaliate, raising more concerns about the escalating violence in the region. The situation further complicates the ongoing ceasefire negotiations involving the United States, Egypt, Qatar, and Israel set to take place in Italy. Here is more.
An airstrike in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights has resulted in the deaths of at least 12 individuals, including children, during a soccer match in the Druze village of Majdal Shams. The attack, which occurred on Saturday, is considered the deadliest incident on an Israeli target since the onset of the Gaza conflict. Israeli authorities have attributed the rocket strike to Hezbollah, a claim the group has denied. In retaliation, Israel launched airstrikes against Hezbollah positions in Lebanon, escalating tensions in the region. This violence raises concerns about a broader conflict as Israel and Hamas continue to negotiate a ceasefire with international officials involved in discussions aimed at de-escalation. The situation remains fluid, with fears that the ongoing hostilities could complicate efforts for peace in the region. Alex Mwangi, GBS News.
Turkey's parliament has approved a 2-year military deployment to Somalia, including operations in its territorial waters. This move aims to bolster Somalia counter-terrorism efforts against the Al-Qaeda-linked group Al-Shabaab, which has been waging an insurgency since 2006. The deployment follows a recent decent and economic cooperation agreement between Turkey and Somalia. For over a decade, Turkey has provided training and advisory support to restructure Somalia Defense Forces, although economic challenges have limited their effectiveness. Additionally, Turkey plans to send an exploration vessel to search for the oil and gas at the Somali coast later this year, further strengthening economic ties. And while Turkey's military presence aims to enhance security, it has raised concerns in the Somaliland, which opposes any Turkish military activities in its maritime zones. The humanitarian crisis in Haiti's education sector has reached an alarming proportions, through the UNICEF revealing that the Haitian education system is grappling with $23 million deficit exacerbated by the rampant gang violence. In response, UNICEF has announced $2.5 million grant aimed at providing immediate relief to thousands of the children. However, the broader impact of the gang violence on the country's school persistence continues to stand. Listen to the report.
Schools across Haiti, particularly in the capital Port-au-Prince, are facing severe disruptions as gun violence rages on. Over 2,500 people have been killed or injured by gang-related violence in just the first 3 months of the year. The violence has led to the closure of at least 919 schools, affecting more than 150,000 students. Yasmin Sherif, Executive Director of UNICEF's Education Cannot Wait, was recently in Haiti and highlighted the urgent need for international assistance.
A big part of the solution will be resolved through that. You will end extreme poverty, you will end violence, you will create political stability, you will have a viable workforce.
As the country deals with this twin crisis of violence and educational deficits, the international community remains on high alert, hoping for both immediate relief and a sustainable solution to Haiti's profound challenges. Irene Juguna, GBS News.
Kamala Harris is actively working to earn the support of the Gen Z's voters following President Joe Biden's withdrawal from the presidential race. In a virtual address at the Voters of Today's Summit in Atlanta, she stated that their vote could not be taken granted for and must be earned, and that she is doing exactly what she was supposed to do. Since Biden endorsed her, passion among young voters has surged, with the social media buzzing with support for Harris, and progressive youth organizers have urged her focus on the key issues like climate change, gun safety, and reproductive rights. Polling suggests that Harris has better favorability ratings among young voters compared to Biden, and her campaign has raised about $200 million, attracting many first-time donors, with over 170,000 volunteers ready to assist. Harris aims to address the youth concerns, including advocating for a temporary ceasefire in Gaza as she seeks to solidify her support in the crucial demographic.
In 2020, it was young voters who turned out in record numbers and elected Joe Biden president. Your generation is leading on the most important issues of our time. In this moment, we then each face a question. What kind of country do we want to live in? A country of freedom, compassion, and the rule of law, or a country of chaos, fear, and hate? Here's the thing. We each have the power to answer this question.
Russian President Vladimir Putin delivered a speech during a Navy Day parade in St. Petersburg on Sunday, an annual event celebrating the strength of Russia's naval forces. Putin acknowledged the participation of allied nations, including Algeria, India, and China, also warning of potential responses to the United States missile plans in Germany, underlining Russia's commitment to enhancing its naval capabilities. The parade featured around 200 warships, all which showcased Russia's maritime power. Here is the full report.
Today, Russian President Vladimir Putin delivered a powerful address during the military naval parade in St. Petersburg, marking Russia's Navy Day. He expressed appreciation for the Navy crews from allied nations participating in the event and reaffirmed Russia's dedication to strengthening its naval forces with advanced weaponry. Putin compared the US plan to deploy long-range missiles in Germany to Cold War tactics, warning that Russia would respond accordingly. He indicated that if the US proceeded with these actions, Russia would lift its moratorium on medium and short-range strike weapons, enhancing its naval coastal capabilities. Alex Mwangi, GBS News.
Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have intensified their campaign against Kamala Harris, the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee. This offensive took place during a rally in Minnesota, a state in the Republican Party has not won over 50 years, through Trump labeling Harris as an evil and questioned her loyalty to the nation. Vance, a Marine Corps veteran, defended himself against Harris' claims, stating that he would simply support Trump's agenda as Kamala Harris gains momentum in the race following presidential Biden's withdrawal. The political landscape is currently becoming quite increasingly contentious. Here is the report.
As the 2024 U.S. presidential race heats up, Republican nominee Donald Trump and his running mate J.D. Vance have launched scathing attacks against Kamala Harris, the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee, describing her as evil and questioning her loyalty to the country. At a joint rally in Minnesota, Vance challenged Harris' recent claims about his allegiance, while Trump escalated the offensive, suggesting Harris will destroy the American dream if elected president.
I'd like to ask the Vice President, what has she done to question my loyalty to this country? I served in the United States Marine Corps. I went to Iraq for this country. And my running mate took a bullet for this country. So my question to Kamala Harris is, what the hell have you done to question our loyalty to the United States of America?
The former president continued his pattern of criticizing Harris on immigration and crime, labeling her a crazy liberal who wants to defund the police.
Kamala Harris's deadly destruction of America's borders is completely and totally disqualifying for her to be president. You can't have a person like this as president.
As Harris' campaign gains momentum following President Biden's withdrawal, polls show she has quickly erased Trump's lead, setting the stage for a fierce battle in the final 100 days before the election. Alex Mwangi, GBS News.
We'll keep you bringing more episodes as they keep unfolding, and that international news brings us to the end of our Ambassador GBS Global. It's been wonderful having you on board, joining us to the end. Here at the Ambassador, we continue to bring you the latest updates and the global developments as you keep it locked with us. I've been your Ambassador, Jennifer Macau, and I'm looking forward to meeting you here at the Ambassador tomorrow, same time, same place at 1 p.m. I wish you all the most beautiful and a wonderful afternoon. Stay safe and see you all tomorrow.